Hello viewers and welcome to yet another Warhammer 40,000 Conquest video production. My name is Mitch and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today I'm pleased to present you with a video sent in by the gentleman sitting to the right. His name is Pejhmon Kamaie, and in this match he's opted to play as our recently released Astra Militarum faction warlord Broderick Worr. To the left sits Shirin. She instead is going to be playing as a proxied version of our upcoming Black Templars trait Space Marines faction warlord Chaplain Mavros. The deploy actions are already coming fast and furious. We can tell that Shirin to the left has given up her choice of allied faction. She's got a copy of the ambush platform sitting in her HQ. It decreases the cost of play attachments by 1, and it lets you use a combat action to deploy an attachment as an ambush during the combat phase. She also happens to have a righteous initiate situated at planet number 1. Note that planet number 1 happens to be a blue planet, and that means that it's a perfectly eligible target for Chaplain Mavros' ability. As an action, he can deal 1 damage to a Space Marines faction unit under your control at a blue technology icon planet in order to give it a +1 attack bonus which persists until the end of the phase and limit once per phase. The Righteous Initiate is the first instance of the Unstoppable specialization we see, so it's a 1/2 with 1 command icon 4/2. The first time it takes a point of damage during the round, you prevent that first point of damage, and then it gains a +2 attack bonus until the end of the phase. So you could use Mavros' ability to deploy stall, or, in conjunction with the Righteous Initiate, you could trigger that ability a couple of times during the combat phase, and it would be boosted up to a 5/2 attacker, which is just incredible, and each and every time it gets the opportunity to attack until it ends up being killed. That is a hell of a lot of damage going out from a 2 cost unit. But we also see a copy of Tactical Squad Cardenas put onto planet number 4 by Shirin. That's a 1/3 with area effect and 1 command icon. And in assessing the opposite side of the table, we've got our new Astra Militarum warlord Broderick Worr. Army units that retreat from his planet are destroyed instead, and whenever an Astra Militarum faction unit under your control happens to be positioned at a green strongpoint icon planet, it gets +1 attack value. It cannot retreat or be routed, so kind of a very interesting double-edged sword of a warlord there, but very powerful indeed. Mavros himself is a 2/7, Broderick Worr is a 2/6, and I believe we're playing as though both of these warlords, though Mavros is yet to be confirmed as such, are a 2/5 on their bloodied side. But we see an Engine Seer Augur deployed out to planet number 2 by Pejhmon. That's a 3 attack value unit. When it ends up leaving play, you search the top 6 cards of your deck for an Astra Militarum card 2 or lower cost, a support card, and you put that into play in your HQ. Some incredible card that Broderick has access to is the Forward Barracks, and at the end of a combat round you're going to be able to generate a Guardsman token, so it's a fantastic attrition effect. Mavros is all about survivability, and Broderick is about being able to front load as much damage as possible. For instance, planet number 4, we see a Rattling Deadeye. It's at a green icon planet. That means the Rattling Deadeye is going to be able to attack for 2 during the ranged skirmish round. If we see Catachan Outpost or any number of other effects further augment that base 2 attack value, it could quite easily kill off that Tactical Squad Cardenas and just be absolutely fantastic. But our players are still deciding how exactly they want to spend their few remaining resources. And it looks as though going into the the command phase, we see a couple copies of Mystic Warden put out to planet number 2 and 3 by Pejhmon. They're traditionally 2/2s at no cost whatsoever. When a battle concludes at their planet, you're forced to sacrifice them, but for the low, unbeatable price of 0 resources, they're at green strongpoint planets, going to be attacking for 3. So we're no matter what going to be seeing a battle occur at Elowith. It generally allows players to tutor the top 3 cards of their deck for any 1 card that they would like, and put those remaining 2 cards on the bottom of their deck in the order of their choice. But looks as though Mavros touches down on planet number 1. Mavros is going to be able to fairly easily win blue tech planets, and the same could be said for Broderick Worr about green strongpoint icon planets. But planet number 1, Elowith, is going to be 2 cards to the left for Mavros. Planet number 2 is going to be a total of nothing for Pejhmon, because he doesn't have any command icons at that planet. Planet number 3, the same. Planet number 4 is going to be a tie, and planet number 5, thanks to that Void Pirate, is going to be a grand total of 2 cards, 1 resource to the right for Broderick Worr. So, looks as though our Space Marine player, entirely uncontested, ended up winning our first planet, Elowith. That'll allow her to pick one of those cards off the top of her deck. Unfortunately, we don't really have a good idea in regard to what exactly is in our player's hand, and then the only other battle that's going to be taking place is at our current planet number 5, but there's nothing to contest Broderick there. He's going to be able to trigger the battle ability of any other planet in play, however, and our current planet number 2 is Yavvarn, which allows both players to put a unit from their hand into play in their HQ. Planet number 3 is going to be Taurus, which rewards players for keeping their unit count lower than that of the opponent. Planet number 4 is going to be Planum, which allows you to move a non-Warlord unit to whatever planet you would like. None of these options are looking too incredibly appealing for Pejhmon. He's not going to be able to trigger Taurus. It's very unlikely that an Astra Militarum player will have the audacity and gall to trigger Yavvarn. So perhaps the relocation of a unit, but again, nothing is looking too terribly appealing here. I believe this is a fairly attachment-heavy deck that Chaplain Mavros is running, which definitely makes sense from a deck construction standpoint, since Mavros' units are likely to be sticking around. And note that whenever we happen to be at a blue technology icon planet, Mavros can also trigger himself with his action to potentially reach a 4 attack value, and as a Warlord, that is incredible. But our first HQ phase comes and goes. That's 4 resources and 2 cards for both of our players. The initiative token now currently resides in Pejhmon's possession. We see a new copy of Void Pirate put out to planet number 5. That happens to be Farron, the route, a target non-Warlord unit, and immediately we see an Earthcast Technician played out opposite that Void Pirate. Its command icons cancel out one another, and that is going to allow Shirin to search the top 6 cards of her deck for any attachment or drone card that she could conceivably desire. I'll be curious to see. Looks as though she revealed a copy of the Ancient Crozius Arcanum, which is the signature attachment for Chaplain Mavros. Very powerful draw indeed. It's not a relic. You can affix it, I believe, to any army or warlord unit. And it grants the unstoppable specialization. I believe the first time you take a point of damage each round, you prevent 1 point of damage, and you remove 1 point of damage, so it's pretty spectacular. But we end up seeing another copy of Rattling Deadeye put into play. There's now one situated at planet number 2. We see a promotion adhere to the Earthcast Technician at planet number 5, and we also see a third final copy of Void Pirate situated at planet number 3. So that's presumably going to allow Pejhmon to make up for the sudden dearth of command that his Void Pirate at Planet 5 is going to win him. But where exactly are we going to see Mavros go? Planet number 1 is currently very interesting indeed, because that's going to be hotly contested. It's blue and it's green. Note that we see the Ancient Crozius Arcanum affixed to Chaplain Mavros, so that's going to allow him the fantastic ability to, prevent damage, heal damage. Note he has not taken any damage yet, and it's not an optional effect to trigger a specialization. But let's see how things break down. Thanks to the ambush platform, that was indeed free. And as Space Marines faction staple, we see the Blood Angels Veterans put out to planet number 2. It's very difficult indeed to discern what exactly that attachment is that's affixed to that unit. I believe, in doing a little bit of a preview, just so I'm not too terribly confused, I generally click around these videos, and I'm fairly certain that that's a Fenrisian wolf affixed to the Blood Angels Veterans. So at the onset of battle, you can basically exhaust it in order to deal damage equal to its attack value to a target, I believe, army unit at that planet. But looks as though for command, once again, no command icons whatsoever. Planet number 1. Planet number 2 is going to be won by Chaplain Mavros' presence alone. That's going to be 1 card, 1 resource for Shirin. Planet number 3 is going to be 2 cards, 1 resource for Pejhmon. Planet number 4 is going to be 2 cards, 1 resource for Pejhmon, and Pejhmon sends Broderick Worr to planet number 5 to handily beat that Earthcast Technician. That's going to be 1 card and 2 resources resources for him, and it looks as though our Astra Militarum player is going to win planet number 1 entirely uncontested. And note that those 2 copies of the Mystic Warden are unfortunately required to be sacrificed. You can retreat them prior to the end of a combat, and then they'll be able to escape to your HQ, but of course without any enemy units present at that planet, no opportunity to be exhausted. The battle ends long before that occurs, and there we go. That's that Blood Angels veterans doing work, killing off that copy of the Rattling Deadeye. And what's fantastic about the Fenrisian Wolf is, even though it doesn't really do you any good at all, once that unit shows up in your HQ, it does allow you to attack, potentially, before a ranged keyword attacker. So Taurus is going to be won by Mavros. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units in play, relative to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for our Astra Militarum player, unless I'm counting incorrectly, and I believe that's going to be the ability to activate Taurus there by our player Shirin to the left. Note that Broderick Worr, no matter what, is going to be able to quite handily kill off that Earthcast Technician, because even if it were to somehow survive his swing of 2, any army units that attempt to retreat from his planet are destroyed instead. So it's basically, you know, screwed no matter what. So a bit of a catch-22, damned if you do, damned if you don't type situation. That's going to conclude our combat round, and that's going to bring us to our second HQ phase. So both of our players have a planet. At present, we could see a Broderick Worr victory as early as 2 battles from now, once Planum happens to be our first planet, and instead for Chaplain Mavros, if she's going to go for blue technology icon planets, she'll have to try to block her partner's victory condition at planet number 2 and then take planet number 3 herself. So once again, the initiative token bounces to Shirin. Note that her Fenrisian Wolf-laden copy of Blood Angels Veterans is going to be sitting in her HQ, and whenever it's deposited at a planet alongside Chaplain Mavros from now on, it's going to be going into battle exhausted, and therefore part of the Fenrisian Wolf's downside is it's not often that you're going to be able to use it, unless you're, you know, able to keep your unit far away from the first planet, but then the ability to actually battle frequently kind of becomes a little bit difficult. So we see an attachment placed upon the Righteous Initiate, and that is damn difficult to tell what exactly that is. We'll kind of have to see how things evolve once units get bogged down in combat to see how things change. Interestingly, we see a copy of Blood Angels Veterans placed upon planet number 1. We see a copy of Catachan Outpost played by Pejhmon. So something very interesting here is that I can only imagine that this means Chaplain Mavros is not going to go to Taurus. She'll try to hopefully just pick up that victory with whatever present forces she has, and then she'll be able to send Mavros elsewhere to win a battle and, of course, set up the Blood Angels veterans quite nicely. So I'll be curious to see if Broderick actually does try to contest that planet. We see a copy of Tactical Squad Cardenas go to planet number 2, so perhaps Mavros is kind of showing her hand in presumably going to planet number 3. The tactical squad's going to be able to survive a Rattling Deadeye pretty easily, with or without Indomitable, despite that Catachan outpost. Note that the Rattling Deadeye is going to be attacking for 4 at that planet, but that Void Pirate still has a paltry attack value of 2. And now I remain very curious indeed in regard to where Broderick Worr is going to go and where he's going to drop off the copy of the Engine Seer Augur there, but looks as though both of our players have got quite a few things out in play. We saw a Tallarn Raiders placed upon our new planet number 5. That's going to be still more economy being pulled in by our relatively fragile Astra Militarum player. But considering he's got preemptive barrage at his disposal, once we see perhaps, you know, him reach critical mass upon some of these green strongpoint planets, or perhaps he just uses his cantripping event, the zero-cost summary execution, sacrificing something like a Void Pirate, you can make a planet green. And here's something absolutely fascinating that we see. We see a copy of the Cadian Mortar Squad placed upon planet number 1. Note that it is range, and we see a Captain Marcus placed on planet number 1 as well. Captain Marcus, once per phase, is going to allow you to sacrifice an Astra Militarum faction unit to exhaust the opposition. And there we go. We see a copy of Sanctioned Psyker deployed to planet number 1. It's presumably going to help ensure that command is won at that planet. And that Sanctioned Psyker being sacrificed could mean that Broderick's going to be able to make, well, I guess we need, well, okay. What I'm trying to say is the Cadian Mortar Squad's going to be able to attack for 2 during range, then Marcus is going to be able to get rid of a copy of presumably that Engine Seer Augur. He could put into play a forward barracks or another Catachan outpost or whatever it happens to be, and that's going to afford the Cadian Mortar Squad a second opportunity to attack. But Broderick shows up at the first planet, Mavros shows up at the first planet. This is going to be very interesting indeed to see how things unwind. Broderick is going to reel in a total of 1 card, 1 resource from planet number 2, or planet number 1. Planet number 2 is going to be a push between both players. Planet number 3 and 4 are going to be won by Pejhmon. It's going to be 2 cards, 1 resource from planet 3, and 2 resources, 1 card from planet 4, and then 1 card, 1 resource from planet number 5. So note that there's a Catachan outpost as well as an ambush platform in play. We could certainly see a copy of Ion Rifle augment one of these units, but let's try and figure out what exactly the attachment is affixed to that Righteous Initiate located at planet number 1. It's not a blue planet, so Mavros isn't going to be able to use his ability, but he's quite a formidable target, being able to attack, well, he's a bit of a powerhouse warlord. He can attack for 2, he's got 7 hit points, he's going to be able to prevent 1 point of damage going on to him, he's going to benefit from the whole repertoire, the entire swath of Space Marines faction events. We could see Drop Pod Assault, Indomitable, Crushing Blow, all manner of different things. So let us see. I still can't tell what that attachment is. I believe it's actually the Godwin Pattern Bolter, unless mine eyes are deceiving me. So the initiative is in Shirin's hand, but that Cadian Mortar Squad's going to be able to attack. The Sanctioned Psyker is going to be able to attack for 1. And maybe we'll see a copy of the Engine Seer Augur sacrificed, just for Captain Marcus to knock out one of the, units here. The Godwin Pattern Bolter is going to make that Righteous Initiate a 2/3. The first time it takes damage, you prevent 1 point of damage, and then it gets a persistent +2 attack boost, and that makes it one hell of a unit, being able to attack for 4. We certainly have quite a few resources for our Astra Militarum players, so it's entirely possible that we might see something like a preemptive barrage that would give War and Captain Marcus and that Sanctioned Psyker ranged, but it's looking as though, unless we can maybe see some Elysian assault teams and things like that, this is going to be a lot of opposition for our Astra Militarum player to try and chew through. And remember, no army units can retreat from War's planet. They're destroyed instead, and if Pejhmon is thinking of running away, that could definitely, it could punish him under normal circumstances, but this is a green planet, so units cannot retreat, and they cannot be routed, so he can't even consider throwing away his units' lives. But Cadian Mortar Squad takes a swing of 4, augmented by Catachan Outpost. That's going to be 2 points of damage dealt to the Righteous Initiate, or rather assigned to it. We saw a copy of the Nocturne Ultima Stormbolter discarded as a 2 shield value card. Note that the Unstoppable specialization should have kicked in at this point, and that should have been a grand total of 1 point of damage dealt to the Righteous Initiate, and at present it should be able to attack for 4, thanks to its mandatory specialization and that Godwin Pattern Bolter. But there we go, that's going to be that copy of Preemptive Barrage. And let's see, that'll be Captain Marcus being able to attack for 3, Broderick Worr attacking for 2, and a Sanctioned Psyker presumably attacking for 1. It's the only thing it would make sense to give ranged. So that will be a swing of 3 against the Righteous Initiate there. What exactly does our Space Marines player have in regard to shields? Looks as though that's maybe 2, perhaps 3 at most cards in hand. That's a copy of Indomitable. That's 1 resource. That 3 damage is being dropped to a big 0. There we see that copy of the Sanctioned Psyker, and it's a bit of a tragedy. That's going to be a dead Righteous Initiate, but unless I'm gravely mistaken, the Unstoppable specialization should have meant that unit is very much alive indeed, and that would have meant Broderick Worr could have, had to spend his attack dealing a little bit of damage there. But of course Mavros himself is a new, upcoming, as of yet unreleased Planetfall cycle Warlord. The Righteous Initiate itself is a brand new unveil with our recently opened Decree of Ruin War pack. So, small mistakes are definitely bound to occur, and there we go. That's going to be Captain Marcus Marcus, tapping out the still ready copy of Blood Angels Veterans. Goodbye. To our copy of the Engine Seer Augur, because that's an interrupt effect. This is actually going to occur prior to that unit leaving play. That's always just something to keep in mind. Because there are a number of interactions that can be quite beneficial by. For instance, if you were to sacrifice an Engine Seer Augur playing as Torquemada Cotes, you could put into play his Formosan Black Ship, and then that could trigger off of the sacrifice of the same unit that was used to put that into play. But that's going to be that Blood Angels Veterans exhausted, and that's going to be Broderick Worr dealing out a killing blow to that Fenrisian Wolf enhanced Blood Angels Veterans. And now it's going to be up to Mavros himself to deal a little bit of damage to our Astra Militarum player, and all of a sudden he's got some pretty difficult choices here. Mavros can deal 2 points of damage to something, but it's not going to be enough to kill any of these targets present upon the planet. And of course, if he tries to kill something squishy, like, say, Captain Marcus, that'll just be more fuel for the Cadian Mortar Squad to ready itself. So I'll be curious to see if Mavros does end up retreating. Looks as though he's going to throw some points of damage onto Broderick Worr. We've seen 7 planets thus far. That means Iridial is not going to be a thing. It looks as though that Engine Seer Augur being sacrificed actually whiffed, because there's no new Astra Militarum faction 2 or lower cost support sitting in Pejhmon's HQ. But that's going to be the end of combat. Chaplain Mavros is going to run away. Note that the initiative token still remains in the hands of our Chaplain Mavros playing Shirin, and that means she's going to be able to attack with that Blood Angels Veterans prior. Oh, that kind of hurts. That's a suppressive fire. That's the Sanctioned Psyker being exhausted to exhaust that copy of the Blood Angels Veterans, and that means that's going to be an attack of 2 and an attack of 3 from Captain Marcus and the Cadian Mortar Squad in reverse order, and the Blood Angels Veterans is going to be destroyed. That means that the combat is going to be won by Pejhmon, but fortunately for Shirin, his unit count is far too high to be able to benefit from that destruction there. So now this is where things get pretty interesting indeed. Note that our Space Marines faction player has 2 copies of the Area Effect 1 Tactical Squad Cardenas located at a green planet, which happens to be the victory condition of our Astra Militarum faction playing Broderick Worr. So here's how things could break down. The Rattling Deadeye could attack for 4 thanks to Catachan Outpost. That's 1 dead copy of Tactical Squad Cardenas. We could also see Captain Marcus sacrifice a unit in order to remove a different copy of a Tactical Squad Cardenas from play. Well, sorry, exhaust it. And now another complicating factor for our Space Marine is we see a copy of Cadian Mortar Squad touchdown on planet number 1. That's going to be able to attack during the ranged skirmish round. Potentially, if that could attack... Well, okay. Let's say Captain Marcus shows up at planet number 1. We could see it fire, kill off the Viorlaw Marksman, which was just played 1-2 ranged unit. That could potentially die. Marcus could be used to tap out one of the tactical squads. The Rattling Deadeye could kill a different squad. A lot of different options here, but it keeps getting a little bit more complicated. Inquisitorial Fortress is going to be able to pick and choose any army unit to rout. I don't believe that's confined by uniqueness or anything along those lines. Interestingly, we see a copy of the signature army unit, the one-of-a-kind, the Emperor's Champion, put out to planet number 1. I believe it's a 3/6 with 2 command icons. Yes, that is indeed correct. And as a combat action, you basically pick an enemy unit, and during its next available ability to take a combat turn, it has to take a swing at the Emperor's Champion. So you could choose a Void Pirate instead of affording your opponent the opportunity to run away with their Warlord. But Mavros and War both show up at planet number 1. This is going to be everything on the line. It's the victory condition once again for Pejhmon. Planet number 1 is going to be 1 in regard to command by, let's see here, 2, 3, 4, 5 command icons for our Space Marine, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, looks like it's going to be actually 1 by our Space Marine, so 1 card, 1 resource. Emperor's Champion is going to be routed thanks to that Inquisitorial Fortress prior to its ability to do anything, because that can occur prior to combat, so presumably at the end of the command phase here. Planet number 2 is going to be 2 cards, 1 resource to the right for Pejhmon. Planet 3 is going to be 1 card, 2 resources for Pejhmon. Planet number 4 is going to be a grand total of 1 card, 1 resource to the right for Pejhmon. So here we go. This is combat range skirmish round. Initiative is in Broderick Worr's possession. That's going to be the Kitty and Mortar Squad attacking for 2, killing off the Warlord marksman. Whether or not that ambush platform would have been able to do something along the lines of putting an ion rifle into play equipped to the Warlord marksman and given it a chance to make a considerable bit of difference, that does not exactly end up happening. So it looks as though we're taking a bit of a break to reassess Chaplain Mavros. He's a 2/7 and the Ancient Crozius Arcanum. So again, it confers the Unstoppable specialization, I believe, in any case, and it's going to be preventing the first point of damage and healing away 1 point of damage, but it's only going to be doing half duty here. There we see a second copy of Catachan Outpost has entered play at 1 point, and I believe both of those copies are going to be augmenting that Rattling Deadeye. So this is going to be an attack value of an incredible 5. We've seen that 1 3-shield icon card played by Chaplain Mavros. Note that there is 1 lone resource token, so it looks as though Chaplain Mavros is going to take a swing of an almighty, it must have been threatening for a swing of 4, because he takes 3 points of damage because of the Unstoppable specialization. And that kind of bites. That's another copy of Preemptive Barrage, played out by Pejhmon, so the Enginseer Augur's attacking for 3. Broderick Worr is going to be able to attack for 2, but that is during the range skirmish round. And what exactly are we going to see here? There are enough resources left for a copy of Indomitable, so the Enginseer Augur is going to take a shot at, looks as though that was on Mavros himself. We see a second copy of the Nocturne Ultima Stormbolter discarded as shields. That 3 damage is mitigated down to 1, and Broderick Worr is going to do another couple points of damage to Chaplain Mavros there. So that's going to be a copy of Noble Deed. That means that Enginseer Augur is going to be sacrificed to deal damage equal to its printed attack value to the Tactical Squad Cardenas. That's going to be 2 points of damage there, and that means that both of those copies of the Kitty and Mortar Squad are going to be readying. The Enginseer Augur puts into play a copy of the Forward Barracks, and if this didn't look impossible for our Space Marine to try to surmount, it indeed just became impossible. So that's going to be a swing of 2 dealt by the freshly readied Tactical Squad Cardenas. Mavros is bloodied. That's going to be a Tactical Squad Cardenas destroyed. That's Void Pirate being exhausted to play a copy of Suppressive Fire, and that's going to be that copy of Tactical Squad Cardenas exhausted. And there's 1 remaining resource, which we could see for something along the lines of an Eager Recruit. That's going to be the end of the combat round. That means the Forward Barracks is going to trigger. You're going to put into play a Guardsman token. Note, it's an Astra Militarum faction unit. Therefore, Broderick Worr is going to make that a 2 attack, 2 health soldier trait token, and each and every combat round you get the opportunity to put another one of those little bastards into play, so that can make a big bit of a difference. And once again, new combat round, the initiative token is in the possession of Pejhmon. That's going to be 2 points of damage dealt out to that Tactical Squad Cardenas, courtesy of our copy of the Rattling Deadeye there. And what exactly are we going to see? So are we going to see Captain Marcus sacrifice the Rattling Deadeye? Yeah, it looks like it. So instead of allowing Area Effect 1 to resolve, that's going to be the Rattling Deadeye discarded. That's going to be a Kitty and Mortar Squad destroying that copy of Tactical Squad Cardenas, and that is indeed going to be the game. So that is 3 strong point type icons for Pejhmon, so congratulations to him for ending up winning this game, but of course very well played indeed to Shirin as well. And it's always fantastic to take a bit of a glimpse at one of our upcoming Warlords, so very interesting indeed that Broderick Worr didn't have the opportunity to put into play any of his incredibly powerful Anxious Infantry platoons, but it looks as though he did not need it anyway. So some fantastic sacrifice effects in play. We didn't exactly see the unstoppable specialization make too much of a difference in this video. It was very much in the favor of having some early game green strong point type icon planets, but be sure to let me know in the comments what you think. Is Broderick Worr indeed an Open the War pack and he's a tier 1 warlord? Is Chaplain Mavros on about equal footing? Could Shirin have gotten a luckier draw? Could she have constructed her deck differently? Both Shirin and Pejhmon are very much experimental deck builders, but be sure to share your own perspective and opinion in the comments. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already, or if you are already subscribed, I always encourage you to share this content, as the more likes, the more views these videos receive. All of it counts as engagement, all of it increases my position in YouTube search rankings, and all of it stands together to mean that more people are going to be exposed to Conquest. They may try out this game themselves, join our community, and of course, we together send a bigger message to Fantasy Flight Games to continue to support this fantastic product. If at any point you'd like to get in touch with me, I would encourage you to do so through Facebook or on Twitter, and I'm always looking, now more than ever, for players just like Pejhmon and Shirin to send in videos of recorded games so that I can commentate them, plug your local game store, and produce some excellent content for our viewers. So, as always, thank you so much for watching. If you ever feel inclined to help support the Hive Tyrant, I would be absolutely honored were you to make a donation or contribution to my Patreon. But thank you for watching, have a good one, and be sure to check back in again soon for ever more Conquest LCG content to come.